I have warmed up my milk to lukewarm and we're going to add sugar, fast action dry yeast in there, and about 2 tablespoons of flour. You can see our yeast is nice and activated. Into a bowl, add your melted butter, vanilla extract, add your eggs, add your milk and yeast, and your flour. Add your dough onto a floured surface. The dough will be really nice and soft, so just knead it for a little bit. Place your dough back into your bowl, and I've oiled it with some vegetable oil. Just roll it around and turn it around, and we're going to leave it to rise. So our dough has risen and doubled in size. Look at that beautiful dough. Add some flour onto your surface, and we're going to roll out the dough. Then add your poppy seed filling and spread it around. We're going to leave a little bit of the dough here because we're going to seal it with this side. I like a lot of poppy seed mixture, but you can put less. All we do now is take it from the side and start rolling it up and down into a sausage. With a sharp knife, divide the dough into same equal pieces. So we're looking for something like this. Place them on a tray, and we're just going to leave them again for about half an hour to raise. Brush them with some egg wash. I have melted some chocolate in a microwave, and I'm going to coat each bulочка with some melted chocolate on top. Add your eggs into a bowl, then we're going to add sugar and mix everything together until it's combined. Then add melted butter and mix everything again. Add plain sifted flour, and we're going to add a little bit at a time, then mix that in. Then add a little bit more flour and keep mixing that in. Then we're going to use some baking soda with vinegar, so add that inside and let it bubble up, and then mix that into your bowl so it's all incorporated. Then add more flour and keep mixing that in. We're going to repeat the process until your dough becomes nice and soft and stop sticking to your hands. So just fold that in and leave in a bowl. I'm using shop-bought caramel. You can make your own caramel if you like, or boil a can of condensed milk. Next, we're going to roll out tiny pieces of the dough and place them onto the parchment paper. I advise doing that with all the dough, or as much as you can, so it's easy to cook. Then I'm using a waffle maker with special attachment for these kind of cookies. So add a little piece of the dough inside, and we're going to cook this for a couple of minutes, 2-3, depends on your waffle maker. And when they're done, you take them out, you will see that it's nice, beautiful cookie shape. This is exactly what we're looking for. Put them aside on a plate and let them cool down, and I'm going to repeat the process with the rest of the balls. You might need to trim some of them, but as long as both of the halves come together, that's what we're looking for. Now we're going to take our caramel and put about half a teaspoon inside each of the nuts. You can fill both halves if you like, depends how much caramel you want inside, and then just glue them together and set them aside so they're set. These are so yummy. They just go so quickly. You can't stop at eating just one. I love oрешки. They're literally my childhood treat, and I still have them every time I go home. Once they set, every time you bite into it, the caramel just oozes out and you have a beautiful vanilla. In a bowl, add your dark chocolate along with your unsalted butter and place it into a microwave for 1 minute with 30-second breaks to make sure your chocolate doesn't burn. Once it's melted, take your ramekins. You can use any molds. I'm using this shape because that's the one that reminds me of the ones that I used to have as a kid. So just gently wipe down the chocolate all around with your pastry brush. And you want to just put a thin layer because we're going to be doing a double glazing anyway. So just put as much chocolate as you can. Make sure you cover most of the bits, and then you want to place that into the freezer for about 5 to 10 minutes. Once it's done, you're going to apply the second coating of the chocolate all over your molds, and I'm using a pastry brush again. I've just warmed up the chocolate so you can reuse the old one. And then place it back into the freezer for about 20 minutes. Next, we're going to make our cottage cheese filling. So add your cottage cheese. I'm using dry cottage cheese with butter and vanilla extract. Then we're going to add condensed milk and mix everything with the hand blender. You can do this by hand with a fork or spoon. However, blender gets more use and it's a bit easier to mix everything together and get that sort of smooth consistency. You can also put this into a blender, but it will take a while to blitz in stages. Then add the rest of the condensed milk and keep mixing. You can add more or less condensed milk depending on how sweet you like it and also depending on how dry your cottage cheese is. Make sure you use cottage cheese which is produced in Latvia, Russia, Estonia, Poland, and it is 100% dry. Things like wet cottage cheese is not going to work in this recipe. So once you get nice smooth mixture, that's ready. We're going to put this into a piping bag. So place a tall glass and then put a piping bag over it so it's easy to spoon your mixture. And then just fill it up until it's completely full, and it's going to be quite a big piping bag. We're making a lot of cottage cheese sorochki. I like to make a lot in advance because you can freeze them for up to 3 months. So once it's done, it should look just like that. Make sure it's tight. I'm actually really sorry, I realized I lost this part of the footage where you fill them in and then add the caramel inside. So we're just gonna fast forward to the bit where you get them out of the freezer and coat them with more chocolate on top to seal the ends. Sorry about that, guys, but it's pretty straightforward. And yeah, make sure it's all nicely evenly coated around, and it's gonna go back into the freezer for about 1 to 2 hours. After that, take out your molds and you should be able to take them out pretty easily. If you've got any chocolate bits that are stuck, you can just cut them off or break them with your fingers. Look how beautiful this shape is. I absolutely love it. You can eat these after 30 minutes when they have defrosted, but if you don't want to eat them all, you can always freeze them for later. So just take a cling film and then wrap your cheesecake into it. Make sure it's completely sealed, and they should last in a freeze up to 3 months. And it's quite nice and easy dessert to have if you're feeling peckish. Now, if you want to enjoy it straight away, I decorated my plate with some melted chocolate. I'm adding some fresh berries just for the beautiful color. And now we're gonna cut into it and have a look. Look at that, guys. Beautiful caramel, chocolate, vanilla flavor. It's just all oozing out, so yummy.
I have warmed up my milk to lukewarm and we're going to add sugar, fast action dry yeast in there, and about 2 tablespoons of flour. You can see our yeast is nice and activated. Into a bowl, add your melted butter, vanilla extract, add your eggs, add your milk and yeast, and your flour. Add your dough onto a floured surface. The dough will be really nice and soft, so just knead it for a little bit. Place your dough back into your bowl, and I've oiled it with some vegetable oil. Just roll it around and turn it around, and we're gonna leave it to rise. To make your filling, add your brown sugar with cinnamon, add butter, so our dough has risen and doubled in size. Look at that beautiful dough. Add some flour onto your surface, and we're gonna roll out the dough. Spread your cinnamon sugar mixture all over your pastry. And you want to leave a little bit around the edges here because we're gonna roll it up. So then start rolling from the top and just up and down, and then roll it up.
Cut into same size pieces and then place it onto your baking sheet.
Now we're just gonna brush them with some egg wash on top. Use some apricot glaze